Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's conversation with one of Merakoi's wonderful patient experts. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Oriana Sousa on the topic of immunotherapy. Before I introduce her to you, for those who don't already know me, I'm Oriana Sousa. I'm a communications consultant. I work at the intersection of healthcare, digital health, and social media. And for those of you who are perhaps not familiar with Merakoi, your host for this event, Merakoi is a global team of dedicated, talented people with a clear mission to co-create healthcare solutions that help people better navigate life with the disease. And what makes Merakoi so unique in this field is the high value it gives to patient experts. Merakoi's patient experts combine disease-specific lived experience with specialist professional experience to create better healthcare solutions. So now back to our topic of the month. Over the past couple of decades, immunotherapy has revolutionized cancer treatment and outcomes, but not every patient knows about or understands this revolutionary treatment. One person who does, though, is our guest today, Oriana, who at only 22 years of age was diagnosed with ovarian small cell carcinoma, which is a rare and an aggressive form of ovarian cancer. She was diagnosed back in December 2011 in her home country of Portugal. So after years of unsuccessful treatments, Oriana tried immunotherapy and she went into remission. She was the first small cell ovarian cancer patient in the world to ever receive immunotherapy. So Oriana, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. And I'd like for you to take us back now, 11 years ago, to that diagnosis. And what was that like for you?
So in 2011, I received my diagnosis in December, as you said, but I had symptoms early on that year. So in May, I started having lost hair, and during the summer, I was having also, I was losing weight, but I couldn't even think that it was related with something because I was having carried my diet, I was exercising, sometimes I have hair loss in the summer, so everything sounds very natural to me. But I was thinking that the hair loss was being massive, and later on the summer, I went to a doctor to just check if it was something wrong with me. And she asked me some blood tests, and we didn't find anything. Then between October and December, I started having a lot of symptoms, and it was like if my body was collapsing. So I started with constipation in October. I had a constant need of urinate. I had nausea almost every day. So yeah, I had a lot of signals that something was wrong with me. And ironically, in the end of September, I went to my gynecologist who told me everything was normal with me as expected for a woman in my age. So it was like a kind of odyssey that I had in 2011 till I got finally my diagnosis in December. When doctors were telling me that something was wrong, it was a kind of relief that they were saying that, because in that moment they were validating my symptoms, because between this October and December, I was going to ER very often, and they were always saying that it was nothing, or anxiety, or a urinary infection. So finally, I was listening that something was wrong, and I get an hospitalization. When I was operated, it was on 22nd December. I didn't had I wasn't aware that would be something so severe as a cancer. So I just learned about my diagnosis on 24 December. It was the kind of gift that nobody wants to receive on Christmas. And it was mortifying because nobody can expect at a young age to have something so severe. So this was how it was like. It was very complicated to me to deal with this kind of diagnosis suddenly, because it was changing obviously my entire 20 years, my entire life at early 20s. So yeah.
Gosh, Oriana, you were so young, and so young to have to figure out, there's something wrong here, but the doctors are telling me, no, you're imagining it, or you're perfectly normal, and this is just a urinary infection. So that must have been such a scary time for you. Do you remember at any point what happened in terms of treatment? So you got that wonderful gift, which is not a wonderful gift at Christmas time. What happened next? When did you start your treatment, or was there any point in those early days where immunotherapy was mentioned to you as an option?
So yeah, no. Immunotherapy was not mentioned to me as an option. So basically, I learned about my diagnosis after the surgery, and I needed to proceed with a treatment. So the option was chemotherapy, but I had in the back of my mind immunotherapy. So immediately I wanted to know if immunotherapy was an option for me, because I guess it was in 2010. I learned about this possibility of treatment because of a mediatic case in Portugal. So we listened some news on TV about two parents who wanted to look for immunotherapy for their baby girl who had renal cancer. So they decided on immunotherapy against doctors' opinion. And it was the first time I heard about immunotherapy. So when I was diagnosed and doctors told me that probably I need to go into chemotherapy, I decided to go for a second opinion in Spain. And I chose Spain because they had an hospital who was related to another one in US specialized for ovarian cancer. So I thought that maybe they can offer me different treatments, different options. But when I went to Spain, the oncologist told me, no, your cancer could not benefit from immunotherapy, grows too fast. So you need to go for chemotherapy. So I returned my country, and I decided to go into chemotherapy. But then, speaking with the oncologist in Portugal, the conversation changed, and I ended up not doing chemotherapy. So that year, I had no treatment. We were already in 2012 because I had my first diagnosis in the end of 2011. So I did not receive any treatment after surgery for the first diagnosis I get. Later that year in 2012, I found a relapse. And I found this relapse basically because I joined an online community. And it was an online community for women with my type of cancer. And I realized that I was not having the right surveillance. I was suspecting, I was not feeling very comfortable in the way the hospital was treating my case, but I didn't know if they were doing or not the correct thing. But when I joined the community, I learned they weren't, and that anticipates my desire to see another doctor and ask for exams. So then I found my relapse. I went back to Spain, asked again for an opinion about the treatment I should follow, and I started doing chemotherapy, another surgery, radiotherapy. But after all the treatments, I found more relapse between 2014 and 2015, and because of that, I started immunotherapy. So in 2014, I went for my plan A, and I started doing dendritic cells in Germany, and radiosurgeries to treat the relapse. So after 2014, I had another relapse, and I changed dendritic cells for another immunotherapy drug. And after this, I found remission, and I'm out of any disease since 2016, actually.
Oriana, I'm just blown away by somebody so young. When I think back to myself at 22 and how little I knew, and you had such incredible strength of character to be able to say, to stand up and say, this is the treatment that I need, and to do your research and to do all of that, but at such a young age. And when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about something that I heard Dave de Bronkard, known as E-Patient Dave, in the US. And I can remember once he said, there's nobody more motivated than somebody whose life is on the line to do the research, to find the information that they need. And while I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, gosh, that was Oriana. And so Dave said that, and he is a lot more older in years and experience than you are. And I'm just so blown away by somebody so young, and how you just did that research, you stood up for yourself, and you were your own best advocate. How were you supported by your family, by your friends? You mentioned that online, that group. Was that a group that you found support in as well as information? I'm just curious to know where you also got support to push forward what you knew was right for you.
So yeah, Marie, basically my core family, my parents, my brother, my aunt, they were my main support. Let's say I was doing the research, yes, but my parents were offering me financial support. So if I need to move and look for options outside my country or in my country, they were paying for. So I had that financial support, which allowed me to move fast, and I needed to move fast, actually. The online community was super important for the emotional support aspect, and because we were exchanging information, like I was the first doing a radiosurgery and immunotherapy, so I didn't learn from them. But I remember when I was relapsing, I was there saying what I should do now. And sometimes they were telling me, you can try this clinical trial maybe, or you can look for this treatment in France or this or that. And that was also helpful, because one of the times I remember I was like, I don't want to go to this treatment in France because I don't like the results. I don't see that the girls are surviving for years after this, and I don't want to just to die now. I'm 22, I'm 23 because I was older. So yeah, it was very important because we were exchanging also some information in trying to contact doctors, and we were exchanging places and contacts and resources in the end. So I guess the main support I had were my parents and this group. And ultimately, I found a healthcare team who were supporting me as well, because I started leading my process. So after leave my original hospital, I was really choosing the doctors I had. So basically that was the most important thing. Even when I started immunotherapy, I was in my third hospital in Portugal. And the doctor or my oncologist, he is still my oncologist nowadays, he was supporting me to have immunotherapy. So he was not saying, go and do this, but we discussed that. And I asked him, okay, if this doesn't work, can you give me treatment after? Can you be here for me? And he was absolutely okay with. So this is also a very important part.
So that last part you said there, Oriana, you said one of the questions I said was, if this doesn't work, will you still be here for me? Which is an amazing question. And you got the right answer from your doctor. I'm just wondering if anybody is listening in now or watching this and they're new to immunotherapy and they're wondering if this might be an option for them on their cancer journey, what questions should or can patients ask their doctors? How is it best to bring up this topic with their doctor, with their oncologist?
So starting again with the last things I said, I found the most important thing is that you trust your healthcare team. And to trust your healthcare team, I guess basically you need to make it as you make every relationship you have as with other people. So you need to find respect and a good communication with your healthcare team. And you, as a patient, you can easily understand that if you ask questions to your doctor and he is okay to answer, or he just says things like, I listen very often from other patients, like, I am the doctor, you are the patient, so I know what is best for you or not. So if you find a doctor saying this to you, probably you can't discuss and you can't be listened. So basically, a patient should ask if there are other treatments or other options they can try, any clinical trials, and if there is a clinical trial and the criteria is something that is not suitable, if you can have compassionate appeal, for example, if there is any off-label drugs, that it can be a good option also. If immunotherapy can or cannot be something to try, and if not, why is that? If they can have, for example, ask or request blood test to check whether is a suitable candidate or not. Because when I did immunotherapy, I had no clue that would be an option for me. I need to be honest, I was just trying to survive, right? I was not concerned if it was something that it was written in science or not. I just wanted to survive. But nowadays we have some blood tests to try to check whether a person is a candidate or not for immunotherapy, which is not 100% reliable. We know that because it seems like some patients can receive a result saying that they will not benefit from immunotherapy, and they can benefit, and the opposite is also true. So some patients make the blood test and it says like they are a good candidate, but in the end they are not. So it's very tricky because we are still losing a lot of information about the way we don't know yet why some people respond and others don't. And that is something that makes me every time think that, like for me, nobody was expecting that I had good results and I had. So who knows in the end?
I think that's so true of cancer, isn't it, Oriana? It's almost like a lottery sometimes, because you can get two people doing the exact same thing and different responses. Those questions that you outlined for asking the doctor are superb. And I just want to say at this point, for anybody who's watching this video, that we will have a transcript of this. We will have a summary, I should say, of this conversation up on our website, on our blog at merakoi.com, and that you'll be able to just read those questions because I think they're super helpful and really practical. So thank you, Oriana. Oriana, I'm wondering, immunotherapy is not obviously just for oncology. So it's had quite a lot of success in other therapeutic areas. Is it my understanding that immunotherapy is happening perhaps at a slower pace in oncology? Would that be correct to say?
Yeah, Mary, it's very hard to say if it's a slower pace. As I said, we don't know yet why some people respond and others don't. So basically what we know is that a considered slower percentage of people respond. And it's incredible because sometimes we are speaking about terminal people who are considered terminal patients. So we know that other treatments could not give a cure or a remission to these patients, and immunotherapy can. But as I said, there are some things that we nowadays we know, like maybe immunotherapy is not so related to a type of cancer, but can be something to be explored individually. And that's why it makes sense to have some blood tests. You can detect the biomarkers and let us know if the patient could have or not a response. Because obviously we need to have some evidence base when we have a clinical question. A doctor needs to follow some evidence to say, yeah, I think this could be an option for you. So we need more evidence and we need more tools to know and decide if this patient can or not can receive this treatment. But just bringing back my type of cancer to this conversation, the thing, for example, I can't understand is why we are still finding patients with my type of cancer who never listen from their doctors the possibility of receiving immunotherapy. Even if they don't think it's the best treatment for them, at least saying, okay, we nowadays know that immunotherapy can be an option, but because of your stage of disease or this or that, we can apply to you. But we are no longer in 2015 like I was. I know other patients of my type of cancer who had good response. So we can't accept that some doctors just don't discuss this with the patients nowadays.
I feel your frustration when you say that, and I share your frustration as well about immunotherapy, about other options as well that are not discussed with us. And so I'm wondering if the doctors, and obviously there's different doctors, some doctors will bring it up, but unfortunately, some people will not have that conversation with their doctor. And so do we as patient advocates have a role to play in empowering and in informing patients about that this is an option? Do you, I mean, I can see that you're very passionate about this, and you spoke about the online community where not only were you receiving information, but you are actually one of the first people there. You are a pioneer in that group. And so you are also leading the information in that group. So for those of us who are in this patient advocacy space, and I will say that immunotherapy is still quite new, I'm still learning about it. What can I do and what can we do as a patient community to have that conversation with our peers, to educate, to inform, to support, to have that conversation?
So it is exactly like you said, we can go through the communities and help other patients navigate in their healthcare systems. We can give them reliable sources. We can help them understand some scientific articles. We can review some information input in a lay language. We can share some great questions to let them discuss with the doctors. Just thinking about the questions, I didn't mention a couple that could be used. So thanks for saying that you will make some notes with the questions, because I would like to give you some others to join. So as a patient advocate, we can be in these communities following the patients very, very closely. And we can also participate in webinars, conferences, to be always more getting more information and knowledge, and to, you know, to not share just our experience, but to start having some evidence to provide the best advices, because I found this very hard also in the beginning, when some patients contacted me to help them. I was very I was very clear, always trying to say, look, this was my experience. It will not be necessarily yours. So we need to have more information, to not just share our story as the Saint Grail, you know. So as a patient advocate, we can also, and we should, be involved with other stakeholders like pharma, like researchers, to make our community listen, to bring up the unmet needs and find solutions. And even because I know immunotherapy can be amazing for a lot of patients, but as we were discussing here, is not the solution for all. So we will need to look for other options. So researchers, pharma need to be keep working in other options also.
Oriana, you are so inspiring. Your story is so inspiring. As I said at the beginning, your strength of character is incredibly inspiring. But I do love what you're saying. You're saying that I'm not just about an inspiring story. Use my story, use my experience. Let's start generating evidence and let's all work together. So Oriana, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your story, but most of all for giving hope, because I feel that you are giving hope to so many people. I would like to leave the last word with you in terms of, I guess I use the word hope. So what is your hope for the future, for cancer, for treatment, for patients that maybe are diagnosed now today and are feeling a little bit lost or a little bit hopeless? I want to leave the last word with you, and a word of hope, Oriana.
So my hope is that others can find the right treatment, as I found for myself, and having less suffering, feel like they are supported in every stage. That is my hope. And obviously, I guess all of us want to see cancer eradicated once for all, but I guess that it will not be a possibility. So I just want that people can access to the best treatment and find a cure and support. Is what I wanted to say. So thank you so much, Marie, for this conversation.
Thank you again, Oriana. Thank you for your inspiring message of hope. And thank you for the wonderful information that you shared with us. And as I mentioned earlier, we will have those questions that Oriana mentioned in this conversation. The questions to ask your doctor will be on our website, on our blog, with a summary of this webinar. So if you're interested, go to merakoi.com/blog. You'll also find previous conversations from previous webinars, again, with our wonderful patient experts. So I hope you'll take some time to explore the conversations on the blog. And please do join us next month for our next webinar. And you'll find information about that on our social media sites. So look for us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. And we certainly hope to see you next month at our next conversation. So thank you for listening and thank you for joining in. But most of all, thank you so much to Oriana for sharing your story with us. Goodbye, everybody.